Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. I've called it Confessions of an Old Techno-Moron because I wanted to record where I'm at the moment, particularly with respect to the idea of starting up when it's still fresh in my mind. I think it'll give me a lot more empathy for people who haven't had that push yet. So let's get going straight away. And I would like to share with you a story, if you don't mind, of the very last day of a real job that I did a long time ago. So this goes back a number of years, almost 35 years. And I had a little bit of a rat for a boss, I have to tell you. Won't mention names, but what happened is at my farewell party, I was determined that I would symbolically cut off my tie. I had my corporate tie on and I was going to take a pair of scissors as I said goodbye and cut the thing. Of course, at the last minute, I very discreetly caved in, much to my regret afterwards. And I felt like such a coward to the point where I actually got into my car and I started bashing the steering wheel for having backed out of this little event. And at the end of the day, that's kind of how I feel right now. Have I left it too late? I've been aware of the online presence now for a few years now. I've been determined to do something about it for at least 2 years now. People have been saying to me, clients have been saying to me, but what are you doing in terms of, getting your products online, you're getting your books on Amazon and so on. And I've been resisting, and now I feel like, wow, this is a time to actually do something. I'm sorry now that I didn't take action more than 2 years ago when I first became aware of this. Okay, just a couple of disclosures before we start. One of the things that I need to mention to you is, the old story of those that can do and those that cannot teach. Well, that's where I'm at the moment. In the last particularly 6-7 months or so, I have read an incredible amount of stuff. I've studied so many books and videos on the online world. And in fact, they have created initially in me a sense of great confusion, more confusion than ever before, because there's so many promises that people are making, so many claims that people make out there. And you need to be able to filter through all of the stuff. But I need to tell you up front that I've been very influenced and affected by the work of 4 people in particular. One is Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. One is Ryan Levesque from a company called the Ask Method Company. Jeff Walker, who does launches on the internet. And then a chap by the name of Todd Brown, who is a copywriter. Now, all of their names and so on are in the handout which you're going to get. I sent Tracy a PDF yesterday, and the PDF includes copies of all of my slides with some additional notes. But at the end of the PDF are some additional resources. And one of the resources then lists all of the websites that I've been influenced by and also the books that I've been influenced by. So you'll be able to get that, and maybe 1 or 2 hints and tips like words to use and so on. All right, so one thing that I do know is that, as one of my old ancestors said many, many years ago, he says, I'm the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. And at the end of the day, this is where I'm at, okay? What is it that I can teach you? And I think, as I said to you, the reality is I feel so confused when I look at what is out there, available out there. It's just an absolute mess over there. This is definitely not a blueprint for going online from my point of view. Not yet, anyway. Maybe in a year's time, I'll feel more comfortable with it. It's not a marketing A to Z of digital marketing. And we're going to hop, as it looks like in this picture, from point to point to point. It looks obviously chaotic, but towards the end, I'm going to try and bring it all together so that at least you have something that you can work with to start. There is a common theme coming through over here. So walk with me. We'll figure out as we go along where we are going. But I think at the end of the day, please don't see me as an expert. I wish I could claim to be an expert on these things, but I definitely am not there yet. Okay. Of course, the business world has fundamentally changed because of the online world. And I think there are 3 things that have changed. And those of you who are a little bit older will remember the old days of marketing as they were. But the 3 things that have changed substantially, first of all, the speed of communication. I remember sitting there on a huge dining room table with my parents, my family, my wife, the lady who worked for us at home, stuffing 10,000 envelopes for a breakfast event. I mean, it was just absolutely, you had to think, weeks in advance to book the hotel, get the brochures printed and so on and so on. that communication has become almost instantaneous. The second thing that has changed substantially is the cost of communication. Once again, sending out 10,000 mails, we were working then in those days at about 2 Rand per mail, including the cost of postage. It was an expensive investment up front. That has all obviously changed. And then the third one is the interactivity. Now, for many of you in your business, particularly if you have a business where you interact with customers on a day-to-day basis, you in stores, for example, or you meet with them doing seminars and seminars and workshops, as I do. We have that interactivity. But one of the things that happens even more so on the internet is, of course, the fact that people can also talk to each other through the social media and so on. Those three things, okay, have changed everything. And of course, the COVID thing has just brought everything forward by a few years, I think, okay? So in the left-hand corner, you will see in many of my slides a little number with a blue dot. That is the 20 lessons. In fact, there are 21 of them, okay? But 20 little lessons. And the first one, of course, is the death of what I call hope marketing. The situation of, you know, going out there on radio, on television, in magazines, newspapers, everywhere, and saying to people, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, please buy my stuff, almost begging. And those things, of course, are finished. Those, the old style of marketing is done. It's finished. And what happens is it's an enormous expense. In fact, one of the founders of the modern advertising industry was a chap by the name of David Ogilvy. And he made this point. He said, as far as we are concerned, we know, and that was then 50% of all advertising works. The problem is we don't know which 50%. And now those figures, when we look at the current research, go down to about 10%. In other words, when companies spend a fortune investing in advertising and promotions, inevitably 10% of those companies achieve the goals that they set out to achieve, which is, you know, bringing new customers on board and so on. Now, that is awful. And marketing people are becoming, just like IT people and all the other people, they are becoming more responsible now and accountable for the money that is being spent. We just simply cannot afford to do that anymore. So that's the death of hope marketing, and it's been replaced by an alternative. And the alternative includes the power of stories and conversations, engaging with customers, so that they actually have an opportunity then to obviously do the word of mouth thing. And the word of mouth is on steroids at the moment. Word of mouth is obviously relating to things like the social media, but also what we say to our friends. People can communicate with, in some cases, millions of other people at a time. And it also gives us a chance to almost real time do our research. So in my particular case, which is courses and workshops and so on, and presentations at conferences, I can communicate with people by saying, hey, I'm really excited to get this thing going. But before I create the course, before I do your talk, I want to make sure that I really cover everything. So can you help me out and tell me what your challenges are? What are the things that keep you awake at night? What if you could wave a magic wand? What if, you know, you were me? What would you say? What would you include? And that interactivity makes a huge difference, and it's become a lot easier on the web, of course. Okay. Of course, there are, as you saw in the little promotional material that Laurie and Tracy sent out, there are literally dozens of ways of making money on the internet. Now, I've included a few over here. They include the freelancing, reselling, other cheap freelancers. We know that there are a lot of people who have great knowledge in sitting in India and Sri Lanka, on the other side of the world, in Mexico and so on. And what happens, you can become a broker for their services, whether it's insurance, whether it's brochures, whether it's making videos, voiceovers, editing, etc., etc. There's a whole affiliate marketing thing where we sell other people's products for a commission, okay? Amazon, anything, Shopify, Etsy, etc., 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 blogging, coaching, advice, analyzing, just the list goes on and on. And in fact, there's much, much more. I remember speaking to Peter Cheels, who is the founder of HelloPeter.com. He sold it for a few million recently. But he said to me that his income came in from the little banner ads that we saw on the side. And he mentioned one of the big cell phone companies that sells cell phones, and they were paying him 235,000 Rand a month just for the benefit of actually being on his website, okay? The reason why he could get away with it is because it was at one stage South Africa's most watched website. More people went onto hellopizza.com than anything else. And of course, as you can see from these examples over here, it excludes, all the companies like Airbnb and Mr. Delivery and all of those companies that are out there doing their thing. It also excludes having your own apps that you sell on the iStore, etc., and your own website. So yeah, the world has changed completely, and more people are not going to fight the traffic and work that time in the from home. So where's marketing going? It was actually quite depressing, I must tell you, and this is probably the reason for my resistance, because for 40 years almost, I've taught tens of thousands of people, from frontline staff all the way through to MBAs and more at universities. I've taught them about the traditional form of marketing, decades and decades of studies. And I thought to myself, is this all for nothing? Is this something where I just have to throw it all out and start from scratch? It seemed upside down, and the terminology itself was quite weird. When I started looking at all the stuff, and here are a few of the things that you have seen over there. I'll get to that word secrets in a minute. But clickbait and sales funnels and JV launch and traffic temperature and autoresponders and blah, 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 squeeze pages, challenges, and then all those three-letter acronyms, the VSL and the OTO and the CTR and SEO and KLT and a whole bunch of others. It was just mind-boggling. And my personal favorite is KLT. Because it started linking to where we were. KLT, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. If you leave with just one thought today, it's about people knowing, liking, and trusting you, even if they are total strangers, okay? And then my personal favorite of all time is this TLDR, too long, didn't read. So you can use that one if you want to, okay? But as I worked through all of these things, okay, I discovered that more and more as I studied this stuff, it hit me like a pow in the middle of the forehead, because I realized that most of the stuff of the traditional marketing, in fact, has not changed. Things like, after thousands of hours of studying digital marketing, things like being unique and being able to be differentiated, solving people's problems, adding value as much as possible, great copywriting skills, personal relationships, and much more. Those things are even more emphasized today than they were if we sold toothpaste on a TV ad in the old days. And so, of course, when it comes to things like choosing your segments, using the power of word of mouth, working with customers' perceptions, suddenly I've realized that 90% of what applied in the past has actually still applies. And in fact, one of the oldest adverts they've ever discovered in the world goes back literally thousands of years in Turkey, in an old archaeological dig in Turkey. And it was, and please forgive my example, but it was an advert for a brothel, okay? And all it had was painted on the paving was this few footprints. You knew exactly what you had to do. Follow the footprints if you want to get to the brothel, okay? And I think from that perspective, today we talk about it in fancy terminology like the CTA, the call to action. But that was a call to action from 3,000 years ago, okay? And I think, that world hasn't changed. So the why and the what have not changed, why we do this and what we do. But I think what has changed, and I guess why we are here, is the how and the who, how we get to the customers and who they are and how they've changed. The internet has created opportunities that would never have existed before. Okay, here's one of my favorite examples. The two kids that you see at the top of the page over there are David Wu on the right-hand side and Sean Johnson on the left. Okay, the chap at the bottom is a chap by the name of Jeff Walker, who does the product launches, and his website is full of wonderful information. But now, who are these two kids? Who are these two young guys who are under the age of 30 and are already in a business that produces more than $500,000 a year, okay? They're passionate music fans. They're heavy metal fans. They've enjoyed that music for the last couple of decades. That's, ever since they became aware of it. And they had, as youngsters, both been forced into going for music lessons by their parents, okay? In fact, David Wu had gone to singing lessons. And what happened is they wanted to share their stuff on heavy metal with, people who were cool and unique and so on. So what they noticed, amongst other things, is that heavy metal singers, and we're talking about the bands, well-known bands, but also members of the crowd, They were singing wrong. They were screaming wrong, okay? And these guys said, but they're damaging their voices. By the time they get to 35, there's going to be nothing left for them to sing because they're just, they're not doing it right. So they spent 3 months researching how to scream in heavy metal and still protect your voice. And they create the 6-figure business with the help of Jeff Walker. This is their website. And it doesn't even have to be a website, by the way. This is one of their ClickFunnels pages. And what happens is, look at that, free screaming crash course, okay? And of course, on the particular website, they do lots of cross-selling and upselling of other things, music. They've attracted all the lovers of heavy metal music to their site, and voila, they're making a great living from this. So you don't have to be Tony Robbins. You don't have to be Stephen Covey. You don't have to be a guru in order to be famous. These guys are making a wonderful living from teaching heavy metal fans how to scream. And there are literally dozens of case studies, hundreds of case studies like that, because the world is our oyster. Gary Halbert is one of the most successful copywriters ever. He, in fact, was responsible for copy that produced for a company called Agora. It was in the direct mail industry, more than $1 billion, okay? Selling a financial newsletter for, under $100 a year subscription. So Gary Halbert did a lot of teaching and as he approached retirement. And what happened is he always used to ask his students a lesson. He said, if you and I both owned a little hamburger stand and we were in a contest to see who could sell the most hamburgers, what advantages would you like to have on your side to help you win? What are the things that you would like? And after giving his students a chance to respond, he'd say, okay, I'll give you every single advantage that you asked for. I have no problem with that, okay? But for me, I'm going to ask you to give me only one advantage when it comes to selling burgers. And I'll bet you with that advantage, I will sell the pants off you. So the students, of course, would say, well, what would that advantage be? And he would say to them, the only advantage I want is a starving crowd, okay? So this is a different way of looking at things, okay? Now, I know that most of your customers, no matter what it is that you sell, whether you're selling information, whether you're selling a service, whether you're selling physical products, they aren't as desperately hungry as in this particular thing. But there's some lovely lessons over here, okay? And I think from our point of view, it's all about the perceptions of customers. We need to create in them a hunger. And there's a way of doing that. I'm going to talk later on about the hook, story, offer kind of thing. If we are able to hook the customers in and tell them a story and change their minds, change their perceptions of what they actually truly need, whether they are cold or really hot. I was a diabetic for most of my life, most of my adult life. I'm now in remission. But when I was a diabetic, I'd be desperate for solutions. But I just thought you have to live with this thing. And then suddenly people started talking to me about other options. Yeah, there was a bunch of, scammers on the internet. And you're always going to find those. People who said, have a lot of cinnamon and your diabetes will go away. That was just a bunch of rubbish, okay? But the scammers are actually a good thing because they will make you look good. When you are honest, when you are trusted and liked, and people know who you are, that KLT thing, known, liked, and trusted, then you have a chance to shine out over there. And I think it's really about working with people's perceptions, and there's just so much power in terms of doing that. So this is a book that literally made millions and millions of dollars. In fact, I think the last time I looked a few days ago, young Tim Ferriss had sold 5 million copies of this book at whatever it is that he charges. The business itself, he sold for over $100 million to an organization. Now, the sad thing is, or the good thing is for Tim Ferriss, is that this book was about nothing new. The book was about outsourcing, okay? It was basically saying, you are the guy in the middle, get other people to make the stuff, get other people to deliver the stuff, and get other people to actually, do all your invoicing. And you can work a 4-hour work week, okay? Now, I'm afraid that that's not going to happen to you. But you see, this is what happens over here. He just changes people's slight perception of what this is all about with a lovely title, a catching picture over there, and has sold, all of these books. As I said, it's probably not going to happen for you. One of the consensus things that I've seen is that there's no instant solutions on the internet, okay? You've got to be prepared to work pretty hard at it and to put your resources, to be careful about how you spend your resources and how you spend your time. So there's a great lesson in that. Okay. Lesson number 4. Man, I was just talking just before we started to Mike Said and various others. The sessions that I've been seeing on the ORT website, okay, and all these sessions that we've been doing have added a tremendous amount of value. And one of the lessons I've learned, okay, is that you must not be afraid to ask for help, okay? There are tons and tons and tons of free resources available on the internet. There are others which will charge you just a little bit. In fact, sometimes you can get a book for free. You just pay for the delivery. But don't be scared about asking for help. You can't do it on your own. And this is particularly for those of you who are literally working alone and you don't have the resources. You don't have, 15,000 Rand a month to pay somebody to do your social media. There are lots and lots of places where you can outsource this. And there's a lot of free stuff available as well. And, here's a shout out to people like Arthur Goldstuck, who spoke recently about being on Zoom. People like Kevin Factor. Kevin Factor, in 1 hour, opened up my mind to, what the possibilities are with Google. All free. You just have to spend, half an hour a day on Google for a few days in order to get maximum power from Google. Melissa Rolston, who did a session on, Shopify, and if you've got a product that you want to sell, some clothing or some food or some gifting type thing, it's some absolutely beautiful stuff over there. And of course, Mike, who is actually with us today, Mike Said, who has just covered so many of the amazing things that are available in terms of design and making your own videos and so on. So don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be scared to even pay for help when it can benefit you. It's a lesson that I learned the hard way, because as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm stingy. I don't like spending money, but there are times when you just have to. Another thing which came through for me was this term funnel hacking. So this is the definition of it. It's the art of examining your competitors' sales funnels to model and test their strategies in your own marketing and sales process. And I want to just highlight a couple of things over there. Remember, it's not copying or stealing. We're not talking about that. Let me just quickly get that up there. We're not talking about plagiarism over here. What I'm saying is that there are some times when you get caught by somebody and it's something that you buy and you feel good about it. What did they do? Whether it was the front cover of a magazine that shouted at you, whether it was the trailer of a movie that you said, wow, I've got to see this thing, whether it was an email that arrived in your inbox, what was it that actually hooked you? And I would like to suggest that you start now noticing those things that do hook you, okay? And to say, well, what actually happens over here? What is the visible thing that I can see over here? But what is the backstory? So, for example, one of the things that I do, and I've learned an incredible amount from this, is I will go through somebody's website. If somebody caught my attention for 2 seconds on an email, I will click on that link, spend the 20 minutes going through their process, listening to their video, reading their stuff over there, and then discovering, okay, what was happening in the back office? What was it like for a customer? How simple was it to pay? And in fact, I've paid for stuff that I don't really need, but I wanted to see what was going on in the background over there. So funnel hacking is not about stealing other people's ideas, downloading their images and so on, but it's about saying, hey, what can I learn from these guys? Let me read you that definition again. It's the art of examining your competitors' sales funnels. And of course, you examine the successful guys. Don't go to the failures. You can go to the failures if you want to and see what you can avoid. But it's examining your competitors' sales funnels to model and test their strategies in your own marketing and sales process. I know Arnold Prinsloo, the chief executive of Escort, is with us today. And the butcheries that they have created in that business have been absolutely phenomenal. It's now spoiled my experience of butcheries and retailers everywhere else, because the store is beautifully designed, and it costs them a lot of money to get this together, but it's beautifully designed. The staff have been incredibly well trained. The range of products that is available is absolutely phenomenal. And I know many of you who are watching this are kosher, but do yourself a favor. Go to one of those Escort butcheries and just see how it works in terms of, putting together a little bricks and mortar business that does incredibly well. Just look at what it's like. Do a bit of mystery shopping, if you want to call it that. Makes a big difference. Okay. This is something that has been around for a long time. It's in all the marketing textbooks and a nice little American marketing adage. He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not so apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers. And of course, that was the old style marketing. You know, you arrived on your horse and wagon in the town, and then you had a good script and you would persuade people to buy your snake oil. That's where this originated. But actually, there is some truth in this over here. And hollering, shouting out your message, especially of something that you believe in, has become a lot easier. So for the past 3,500 odd years, okay, of recorded history, the answer has always been pretty simple, okay? And this is kind of what it all comes down to. First of all, we got to get more customers. There are very, very few businesses who say to me, oh, okay, we've got enough customers. Okay, we can't do it anymore. Let them go to our competitors. If you're in that position, that's wonderful. Well, it's time to grow, okay? But once you've got those customers, then you've got to get them to buy proportionately more. And we know that a customer who stays in your business for longer does buy proportionately more through the cross sells, through the upsells, through coming in more regularly over there, okay, and buying more frequently. And then the third thing is obviously get those customers to spend more when they buy. And this is where they're willing to pay higher prices and to say, well, can you help me? I'd like you to take care of this need. I know this is not part of your business. If you think that doesn't happen, I want to tell you about a business called AdvanceNet, just here in the north of Johannesburg. They're an internet business. They're a computer business, an IT business. What they do is the same as 200 other IT firms in South Africa. They sell you hardware, they sell you software, they do the support of all of these things. But they are different, okay? They are different because of the approach of their staff. They're always willing to help and to go out of their way to do that extra mile thing. They had a phone call from Africa where somebody said to them, thank you, we love the fact that you supported us in our installation of this new stuff over here. Tell me, could you possibly source some trailers for us? The trailers is not part of our business. You know, some rented trailers. That's not what we do. But you see, the trust existed. And the client said to them, please, I don't know where to start over here, but you're in Johannesburg. Could you just source those things for me and just get them sent up here because I trust you. I know you're not going to let me down. So these are the kinds of stories that I think make a very big difference over there. So I've been using the word sales funnel quite a bit, and there's so many definitions of this, it's mind-boggling again, but the one that I like the most is the simple one over here. A funnel is a series of steps. That's what it comes down to, a series of steps that you ask someone to take online, usually, to go from not knowing who you are, you're a complete stranger, a complete cold call, to become a paying customer. Now, I must tell you that one of the disadvantages of having my own business for me has been cold calling. I've hated it from day one, but it's important. It's necessary. There are ways around it, using the power of word of mouth, okay, staying in touch with clients, and we can talk about that some other time. But really on the internet, okay, the cold calling has become a lot easier. So starting off with a point, and I just want to get my little highlighter going over here, starting off at the point there where they don't even know who you are. They've never even heard of you, okay? We take them through a series of steps, and simple as possible. This may be 2 or 3 steps maximum in order to them becoming a paying customer. That's really what the bottom line is in terms of that. And I think when it comes to these things, we've got to be able to just get rid of that. We've got to be able to understand that it's not a complicated thing. The world is out there waiting for us as long as we do something spectacular. So the front end of most sales funnels is the customer acquisition. And this is where your own website and your own ability to attract customers becomes important, okay? Your mailing list is important. Even if you're sitting with 0 at the moment, no names on your mailing list, okay? There seem to be a couple of things which are important, okay? The first one is that you're obviously looking for the paid traffic, the customer acquisition. But this is not only expensive, okay, but when Facebook and Google and YouTube and all of this, they change their algorithms, you could be left with no business. We've heard of so many examples of one little tweak that they made to their algorithm, maybe because they just felt like it sometimes, maybe because there were too many customers complaining. And suddenly you realize, but hang on, I put in this bid over here. There was an auction. I'm paying $3.75 for every single person who comes to my website or to my connection over here. And now it's dried up, okay? So that is the paid for traffic. You can pay other websites to actually get onto their model over there, okay? The second type of list is the earned one. And this is the one that's now free, but it requires a lot of work from your point of view. This is where you piggyback on other people's mailing lists. And it might sound like, particularly if you go to your competitors, that they wouldn't be willing to do that. Hang on, hang on, hang on. You want me to share my customer list with you? Are you nuts? That's not what it's about, okay? It's about talking about who are the influencers, who are the people who you know that given the right incentive, they would be happy to do that. And it includes commenting on their websites. It includes being a guest and also asking them to be a guest on your stuff, interviewing them and so on. And it includes joint venture partners, which I'll be talking about towards the end of the presentation, okay? By far the best is the owned list, okay? The list of names of people who know you and trust you, people who you've had some contact with. And as I said, even if you start with 0, by the end of this week, you could have 30. In 2 weeks' time, you could have 100, okay? And we'll talk briefly about how you get that going. But this is totally within your control. The first 2 are out of your hands, okay? You have to pay for them in some cases, but they're out of your hands. You're not quite sure if those people will actually help you. But the ones that you own, you can email whenever you want to. We will talk about, by the way, how often you should be sending emails. By far, the best strategy is the owned one. So your email list is not a strategy, it is the strategy. And I'd like to just mention over here a quick example. If you take a look at selling biltong, let's say we decided we were going to start selling biltong, okay? It's a commodity. Everybody does biltong. You have the large organization like Takis Biltong. You have small people who do biltong and sell it to you at the local farmers market, okay, and so on and so on. So what will make us be different? How could we make this commodity different, okay? Well, I can tell you now that I don't need a website. I don't need anything. But what I do have is a list of my friends and acquaintances, okay? So if I was going to be starting a biltong business right now, okay, I would start off with my connections. Start emailing them, having telephone calls, WhatsApps, whatever it is, okay? And then also offering them something which they don't just buy as a once-off. Do you want to buy a packet of biltong, you know, for 20 Rand? No, it's really about saying, hey, listen, I'm offering this new service and I want to try it out over here. What I'd like to do is to deliver monthly biltong to your house, and you're going to have it available whenever you want it, okay? And every month you just fork out a little bit of money and you can have biltong anytime you want it, and we will just renew it. We'll deliver it to your house every single day, or to your office. In fact, on the subject of office, what I would also do is I'd say to my contacts, hey, you work for a living, you're in a company, is there somebody who buys the snacks in your business? Is there a canteen? Could you put me in touch with that person? That word of mouth, that introduction becomes absolutely crucial over there, and it makes a big difference. So from that perspective, that's how I would do it, okay? I would also probably go after markets. For example, one of the things that has happened to me is my protein levels, ever since I cut down on my eating because of the diabetes, okay, and I had a stomach operation done to cut the input, my protein levels have always been low, and that has a very serious effect on your muscle growth, your bone structure, and so on. There are a group of people out there, especially the fitness guys, okay, who want a cheap source of protein. Biltong is a great source of protein. So by specializing, finding out, you know, at gyms and so on, you can say to a particular gym, hey, listen, this is what I want to do with the biltong, and would you give me some names and so on? And you start building it like that. So these are the kinds of strategies that work incredibly well on the internet. And you say to people, I deliver it on demand, try it out for 1 month. And then if you don't like it, we won't ever invoice you again. You'll never hear from me, okay? That type of thing. So the better the offer that you make, the better the sales conversions will be. And it's not just about price, okay? It's also about that convenience factor. If I wanted biltong right now, if I had a craving for biltong, I'd have to go to a retailer and buy it, okay? It's not just readily available at the touch of a button, or alternatively sitting there in my fridge. So we've got to have great offers. This is a picture of an old Anglia. Some of you are old enough to remember those old Anglias. If you actually take a look at the price of an Anglia, rusted old thing, it's worth nothing. Well, it was worth nothing until the value of an Anglia became 10 times more. What happened? An Anglia appeared in a Harry Potter movie, okay? They just bought one of these things, juiced it up a little bit, painted it blue, and it was on the front cover of a Harry Potter book, and suddenly everybody in the world wanted an Anglia. I wish I had one sitting in my garage, okay? A 50-year-old car, a really ugly old car, poorly performing, but it was in the Harry Potter. It's a perception. It always comes down to those perceptions, all right? So that's the front end. The front end is getting customers with your email list. And obviously, if you want to paid advertising, earned advertising, okay, being on other people's websites, word of mouth, referrals, all those things. But the back end is where your money lies, okay? And I think what we're talking about over here is where you might lose out on that first deal. And believe me, it's not easy losing out on that first deal, but you got a name. If you can break even, the real value comes in the cross sales, the upsells, and sometimes even the downsells. Maybe what you sell is worth 500 or 600 rand. But what you can do is then say to people, okay, I realize that it's too expensive for you right now, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to unbox this. I'll sell you the parts over here. You remember in the old days, you know, companies used to do it and they said, well, we'll just send you the first part now and then the second part will happen. So you don't have to buy it all up front. Think, you know, lay-bys is what we used to call them in retail, okay? What else can I sell them with that will go with this? For example, a few weeks ago, I watched a webinar on the guys who own that, I just had a blank, the website that sells you all your kitchen stuff, okay? And they are saying, hey, if you're going to buy some food, some stuff for your kitchen over here, some knives and forks or a carving knife, what else can we sell you that goes with this, okay? And they've got a really successful business, okay? And I send them up the so-called value ladder. Let's talk briefly about the value ladder. Don't want to spend too much time on this because I think you all know about this. But the value ladder basically says on the left-hand side is the price that you charge. So there's the price that you typically charge from very low to very high. And then what is the value that your customers get? What is the value that they receive? So from that point of view, okay, we find that the more you can take them up that value ladder, you may start off with something that is relatively cheap and low value, but your job over the next 2 years, 3 years is to get them to go up that value ladder, to sell them increasingly more expensive stuff because they know, like, and trust you, and obviously to add more value in their lives. And then suddenly you are earning great money from, you know, the highest level. Think about this up front because everything that you do will be about aiming for that big picture over there. What is it that you want from them? And we'll talk about that in more detail later on. So in my particular business, I will just tell you, share with you mine. For me, selling books and videos, relatively cheap. In fact, I'm just in the process of giving my books away for free. All my clients need to do, and the prospects, all they need to do is just pay for the shipping. I'll ship a book out to them. They can have it for free. One of 8 books that I have written over there. It exists and it's cheap. They don't have to spend more than about 100, 110 Rand to have it shipped to where they are. The second one then is online training. This is where now for 400, 500, 600 Rand, we'll be able to then let them do some online training where they will still submit assignments and so on, but it's online. They do it in their own time. But after that, what I would like is that for them to come to a live event, to pay 700 or 800 Rand to come to a live event where they can learn to delight their customers, in my particular case, or learn some strategies and so on. And from that group, then we're going to find that there are some people who would like me to do some full face-to-face training in their company. Now we're talking about thousands of rands, where they're saying, we've got a group of our employees in our call center or security guards or receptionists or salespeople. Please come talk to them, spend a day or half a day with them talking about that. And now suddenly it's worth thousands of rands. It's the same message, but it's different, okay? And then, of course, there are the long-term projects where a client I'll go in there for a project for 6 or 8 months, sometimes even longer, and now we are talking in the tens of thousands of rands. So that is the plan, and if I'm not clear about what that final stage is, then we did before we even start, okay? And in fact, you might even start with, as I said, a free front-end offer. You say to them, this is my lead magnet. I'm willing to do this for you because I want you to get to know me and understand what it is I do, and I want to add some value for you. My job is to add value as much as possible. So I think you can give people the why and the what, but you don't sell them the how, okay? That's the key issue. The how they must pay for. So if you think about what it is that you are actually offering, the why and the what is easy, particularly those of you who are selling information or going to be going into selling information. You give that away to them, but they buy the how from you, okay? How come when I make that butternut soup that I loved at the restaurant that I went to, it's never the same at home? They'll never share their secrets. So I have to go back to that restaurant to buy that butternut soup because they just do it so much better over there than I can ever do it, okay? Even if I have the recipe, by the way. All right, so I'm going to move through the next few slides quite quickly because I think most of you have probably done this to a degree, but just to make a point about some of these things, okay? So the first thing, there's 4 main priorities that you need to think about right up front. And if you start with something, then start with this. The first one is, who are my dream customers? Who would I love to deal with? Who are the people that would be absolutely fantastic, that I'll wake up in the morning saying, wow, I'm so pleased I'm going to be with these people. In fact, a couple of you that are on this webinar today are actually people that I love to deal. I love being with you, okay? And who are those that we want to repel? Okay, it's not only who we want to attract, but we also want to exclude the others. Maybe because they can't afford it. Maybe because they are just difficult. We don't want to deal with them. Maybe they just, want to sponge off us. Yeah, and there are going to be some people sometimes who are the sponges, okay? And that's why, by the way, unsubscribes are so important, because if they unsubscribe, you don't have to spend time and money, marketing to them, okay? And you can ask yourself questions like this, and in fact, this I found incredibly powerful. Creating a detailed avatar, okay, a description of who they are. What are they passionate about? What are their goals and dreams and desires? What are the fears? What are the nightmares? What are the things that they worry about? Their frustrations in the businesses that they deal with right now. What's a day in the life of these people? What are the things that they struggle with, okay? And what is the offer that they would really love me to make to them? What is the thing that they have realized that if Hecky waves a magic wand, this would be great, right? And so this also includes for you to identify your superpower. What is my superpower? What is it that I can share that people will actually love, okay? And you don't have to be a crazy dude like I am that talks too much. You can do it in a quiet fashion as well, because your expertise and your authority are what's important over there, okay? And there's 2 tribes that you want to create. The first is your dream customers, the people who actually will buy from you. No problem with that at all. But don't forget to start nurturing right now also not the dream customers who are going to buy from you, but the people who will help you sell, the people with the lists, the people who influence other people. And as I mentioned to you earlier, you've got to nurture them, okay? Be spectacular with these people who are going to, at some stage in your life, maybe a year from now, they're going to be rewarded by actually, helping you to sell your stuff. So don't forget to keep those separate over there. Work a little bit on that group on the right-hand side, even if it's just, half an hour a week, 20 minutes a week, commenting on their websites, reviewing the books that they've written, visiting them in their businesses, telling them that you love them, and so on. I'll share with you some of the things that you can do later on. Now, this is one of my avatars. Her name is Tembi. The photograph I've just downloaded from the internet, but I needed something to be able to imagine. And Tembi has got a very clear description. I know what she does at work. I know what she studied to be there. I know what her frustrations are. I know what she drives. I know she's frustrated with her boss at the moment, would love to start an online business. But I've even got so far as having a picture of my dream customer, given her a name. It helps me to visualize her and to stay focused on her. And I've got Mark, and I've got a whole bunch of other ideal dream customers that I do. Okay, so it's quality versus quantity. Focus on the people that you want to deal with rather than too many. Be ruthless about measuring things like your click-through rate, your cost per acquisition. Sometime I might do a webinar on that. The ACV, the average cart value. As long as your cost to acquire is always less than your actual cart value, then you're doing okay. And then you can obviously free up some money to spend money on advertising. That will bring you a whole bunch of things. Notice it's in inverted commas over there. Best source of new business. Remember, this is always your old customers. So you need to find that sweet spot between the recency, how recently they last bought from you, the frequency, how often they purchase, how many times they purchased in the last 6 months, the last year, the last month, whatever works for you. And then the monetary value, how much money they spend. And of course, the sweet spot is when all 3 of those work in your favor. If they have come back to you, once a month to buy something, and they always buy on average much more than others, they are likely to continue that process, okay? So these are the kinds of things that you can think about, okay? Your partners, the people not that are going to buy from you, but who are going to help you sell. Well, invite yourself into their lives. And by the way, this is probably the order that you would do it in, okay? So you just invite yourself into their lives just by engaging with them. Send a little thank you email. Wow, I just encountered this. I learned so much from you. Thank you. And I really love what you said about ABC. Then start commenting on their blogs, okay? Maybe start doing reviewing of their work on books, on Amazon, on blogs, whatever it is, okay? Maybe at some point you can start asking them for their advice. struggling with this thing, what would you say? If I could just ask you to just write me just a 5-line or a 10-line email, just tell me what you think. May I call you and just spend literally 5 minutes with you, just picking your brain if you don't mind, and then interview them for articles, make them feel important. Start a podcast if you want to. Okay, do some kind of a summit where you invite a few of them and you share that with your clients, and then of course help them in any way you can. My deal is to always try and add value for you. How can I help you? Many of you know that I always end off every email, every SMS, every conversation by saying to my clients, and if there's anything else I can help you, anything at all, please just let me know, okay? And then reward and incentivize them, okay? At some point, when you ask them, then you can start creating an affiliation where you pay them some kind of a commission, 50%, 60%, even 70% to have access to their list. Now, their names become part of your list, the list that you own. Okay. All right. So that's about dream customers. We can go into that and spend a day talking about it. The second thing to do is to identify, where do they hang out? What is it that they actually do? Okay. Where are they congregating? Where are they hiding? What are they reading? What are they listening to? What are they watching on YouTube? Okay. Where are they playing? What are they playing? What games are they playing? What websites do they visit? What social media do they use? Are they subscribed to anything? These are all things relatively easy to discover, okay? And who are the people that influence them? So all of those questions will help you to be targeted, particularly if you're going to start spending, 20 Rand a day on Google ads or on Facebook ads or something like that, okay? But the most crucial thing is to understand, and this is where Kevin Factor made such a wonderful webinar. What are the keywords that they are searching for to find information? Google helps you. Google have not only got tutorials on what you can do, but they analyze the information for you for free, and they can tell you what people are searching for. Amazon is the same. So those are the kinds of things that can make a tremendous difference. Okay, once we found out where they hang out, well, then you've got to be able to come up with some kind of bait to attract them. And from that point of view, it's not bait. I don't like the word bait, but it's the word that is commonly accepted. And what I'm talking about over here is what are the kinds of hooks that we use that will interest them. And I've got some examples which I'm going to put up in a minute. Okay. And then what are the stories that we tell? Stories are incredibly powerful, and I want to just share some information about that with you as well. And then what is the offer that you will use to attract your dream customers, even if it starts off as a free offer over there. All right. So stories are important, in terms of know, like, trust factors. Okay. What will grab their attention? And I think what's important over here is, now I've heard a new term called story selling, selling by means of stories. When you find out what your dream customers want, it becomes very easy to attract them with your offer. All right, by identifying with them. It makes you interesting and memorable. People identify with stories. Yes, that's me. That's exactly what happened to me. It helps you to build rapport. They understand that you have credibility and authority. You tell them, I've been there, I understand what it's like. Stories help to break false beliefs that they might have in their lives when they don't believe in themselves. They might help you to persuade someone that it's worth taking that extra step. And they obviously are used to influence other people. Stories are also good because they help you to anticipate objections before they even occur, okay? And so one of the things that you can do is to ask yourself, well, what is the attractive customer or the attractive character that I represent that they will like, okay? And there's a few things that make you interesting and memorable, okay? Let's just use another analogy over here. If I asked you about your favorite movie star, Dwayne Johnson, or your favorite singer, Barbara Streisand, or whoever it is that you follow, that you enjoy, a celebrity that you enjoy, but chances are you'll be able to tell me you'll be able to describe them to me. You would be able to tell them what they do, where they've performed, what movies they've been in. You'll be able to do that in a lot of detail. You could tell me what they look like, what roles they've played, what other things they do with their lives, what hobbies they have, what makes them likable. All of those things, you'll be able to do that. But the important question is, will your customers be able to say the same about you? Okay. Do they know the same about you? And that's something to aim for. All right. So some of the things that make for an attractive character, and I'm not going to go into too much detail over here. It's listed in your notes, but the likability, what flaws make you approachable. They like to hear about your weaknesses, the things that you struggled with, the times when you really struggled. It helps them to identify with you. Okay, generosity, we've spoken about that. I'll talk some more. Empathy, trust, etc., etc. You've got some stuff in your notes about Another very powerful way of attracting those customers is not only through the hooks and stories and offers. This is what I put up earlier in terms of your sales funnel. But I'd like to share with you something from the work of Ryan Levesque. And he says, you start off as a stranger, just as we spoke before. But if you do some kind of a quiz or a survey, people love these things, okay? And it can help you to become more effective and targeted, because as a result of that quiz, and by the way, you don't have to be silly like, they do in magazines, like, if you were a cheese, what kind of cheese would you be? If you were a superhero, but you can help them by saying, what is the one thing that is probably holding you back from success? And you just give them 4 or 5 questions to answer. But now those questions will help you to determine the different categories that they fall into. And what you'll be able to do is to respond to those individuals who are in the top one or the middle one or the bottom one or any one of those segments, okay, and makes it much more powerful for you. There are 4 reasons why this is so important, and I'm going to need to wrap up in a short time. First of all, people love filling them in. If you were a cheese, we do these things. It's almost like we're hooked into them. So that does help, but it leads to incredibly cheap leads, because people not only love talking and finding out, but they also love sharing. They share these things with their friends, okay? There's an incredibly high sales conversion, because now you've got them doing something, okay? You're able to customize and copy, to customize your offer to them through this thing. And of course, now they're more involved, and when they're more involved, they can make a big difference. Okay. Learn from Hollywood. How do they create anticipation, excitement? What are the things they do in Hollywood that makes such a big difference, where we're saying, wow, this is coming out in 6 months' time. I've got to see it. I've got a diary to see it. It's coming next summer. Wow, this is brilliant. I'm so looking forward to this. What can you learn about that from Hollywood, okay? And then some other things, and again, these are probably things that you are doing probably naturally already, but some of the ethical bribes that you can use, which is another new term I've learned in the last few months. But, PDFs, videos, free training, even free 45-minute consulting sessions. Those are also nice. People love it, and they know that you're adding value for them, okay? The principle of reciprocity. Give them incentives, vouchers, for example, that they can, get some money off. My son went on a camp to somewhere near Nelspruit, and he won on that camp a 1,000 Rand voucher for a free elephant ride for the whole family. We went and spent 10,000 Rand one weekend so we could redeem that 1,000 Rand elephant ride. And it was a beautiful, wonderful weekend that we spent over there. These things work, okay? One-time offers where you take it away. Scarcity, fear of missing out. Pattern interrupt, where they look at this and say, what? What are you for? I didn't realize that, okay? Membership of the cool tribe through events and rituals, okay? I want to be cool. I don't want to be left out of this, okay? And then, of course, sharing science and research. Just a couple of examples over here. This is from Russell Brunson, a chain, unlock the secrets, 99 marketing secrets that will change your life. Notice also that he's got a call to action everywhere on this kind of thing. Here's another one which I really enjoy also from him, a little video, quickly create beautiful sales funnels and convert them. And hey, man, there's 109, oops, let me just go back. There's 119,000 people who have used this. They can't all be wrong, okay? This is a young lady by the name of Amy Porterfield. I've given you her website. Absolutely fantastic. She uses a quiz to get things going over there. Lovely stuff. In fact, I'm going through one of her webinars at the moment on LinkedIn and social media. This is from a chap by the name of Drayton Bird from the UK, very cynical old chap. And this is now his storyline. Advice from a Turkish brothel. When you see this, you cannot help but to actually open the email and say, wow, this is crazy. Here's another one that he uses as well. This one particularly said, like having a fridge without having it plugged in. And he talks about, you're all a member of LinkedIn, but do you actually use LinkedIn? It's like having a fridge. If you're not using LinkedIn properly, it's like having a fridge without having it plugged in. So those are just some examples, and I've got plenty more where that came from. So we understand our dream customers. We know where they hang out. We know what bait we must use to attract them. And finally, what is the unique result or value that you create for them in your offer? The unique results, okay? What is the peak that they will achieve if they just stick it out with you? What will make them cool? What will make them really amazing, okay? And that happens because you are there to guide them. I've been there, guys. I know the process. Let me hold your hand, and together we can do something spectacular. Of course, the idea of adding value, many of you who've been on any of my seminars will understand this. It's absolutely critical, okay? And Seth Godin uses a lovely term. He says, always give compelling value, the wrap value. Is it relevant to me? Is it anticipated and personalized? And are there some creeps and freeloaders who are going to take advantage? Of course, that's on the internet, okay? There will be like people like that, but it doesn't matter. You know, let them be creeps, let them be freeloaders, but most people will appreciate that you've added some value. If I said to you, you can have my cell phone, it's an iPhone 4S, it sells on one of the websites for 1,555 Rand. I can tell you that within the next 1 minute, many of you would offer me 15,000 Rand for my cell phone. Why? Because in my cell phone, I've got 678 top business contacts, chief executives of organizations, HR directors, marketing directors. If you could have access to those people, would that help you? I've got 63 Kindle books, all books related to what I'm doing over here. I've got business and other apps, including Zoom. I've got my favorite hobbies, which include astronomy. Okay, I've got bank accounts. I've got flight schedules. I've got backups of my slides just in case my laptop doesn't work. I've got 200 of my favorite rock songs for the 1970s. That will probably attract a few of you. And I've got quite a few of my favorite marketing podcasts, so I can listen to them while I'm on the road. Would that be worth 15,000 Rand to you now? It's not the cell phone, it's what's on the cell phone. It's the perception of value. And in fact, I have been offered in one of my seminars, one of my live seminars, somebody said to me, oh, okay, I'd give you 50,000 Rand for what's on your cell phone. Okay. Of course, it's not available, needless to say. So that principle of scarcity over there. All right. So everything you put up in your ads, your emails, your landing page, upsells, webinars, etc., everything should include a hook, a story, and an offer. It makes a big difference. Okay, let's just quickly finish it off. We're on number 18. I need a couple more minutes. Tracy and Laurie, I'm really sorry. I'm going to just go briefly over my time. When it's all over, start again by following up. And I'd like to just talk about your emails just for a minute. There are two types of emails I think you can be sending out. One is the soap opera sequences where you create tension, where there's high drama, and then just at that moment they switch it off and it forces you to watch it tomorrow. I know one of the programs that my wife loves watching is Nurses and all these medical programs, and they always leave you hanging at the end. So one of the recent episodes last week is a really manipulative, horrid woman in a hospital got shot through a hotel room door, okay? And it ended there, okay? So even I, who don't watch soap operas, even I now want to see what happened to her. Did she die? Did she live? That's the kind of thing. So soap opera sequences, and you send them out so that they look forward to the next one. The second one, okay, is what I like to call the Seinfeld messages. And Seinfeld was, as you know, a comedy program that was actually about nothing. Every episode was about nothing. But it was just fun. It was entertaining. There were all these crazy people who had the same hang-ups that we had, okay? The same uncertainties and so on. We could identify with them. And those become your entertainment where people look forward to them. They're relevant, they're anticipated, and they are personal. Yeah, I love reading it. And it might be that you're sending out just too many emails and people are saying to you, oh, you know, how many? Well, just consider this, and I'm going to, finish off in a minute. But a person, an average person, needs probably somewhere around 15 touch points before they actually notice you. You have to contact them 15 times before they notice you once, okay? And then they probably have to notice you at least 4 times before they actually remember you and get hooked in over there. So that's about 60 touch points. So you have to send out those 60 emails or those 60 WhatsApps or those 60 phone calls. Phone calls are more personal, so it's probably a little bit less, okay? I don't have a problem with all the emails that I've subscribed to. If I'm unsubscribed, I don't want to receive them. But the ones I subscribe to, even though I might press delete 2 seconds later, it serves as a reminder. Oh, Donald Miller sent me an email today. Oh, Donald Miller, I really must watch that video, okay? So it's a daily reminder of you, okay? Even those 2 seconds while they delete you. And of course, when it's interesting and entertaining, when it's fun and innovative, when it adds value, little hints and tips, 5 ways to do this, okay? Then of course it does make a big difference. So I don't have a problem with lots of emails, but you've got to, not break the rules. And then finally, and this is something which I struggle with, there are so many websites which are just such a hassle to go through, okay? Friction-free is what I'm talking about here. You've got to make it as easy as possible. Use the technology to make it as easy as possible so people don't have to jump through hoops. the consensus on the internet seems to be, and I must tell you, I'm very uncomfortable with this, is just get it out and fix it later. For somebody who's been in business for almost 40 years, where zero defects is the only standard, I really struggle with it. But the consensus seems to be that people will forgive you. And there's lots of them out there in the world. Just get it out there. Just do something. It'll feel sometimes like you're building a plane while you fly, okay? Or like herding cats, but just get it out there over there. Remember that there are some things that you learn best in a calm and something in a storm. Just go out there and do it. So I'm going to have the last word and give the last word to Todd Brown, one of the best copywriters. And I would like to suggest you get onto his website. He's got a lot of free stuff, but he's also got a lot of stuff which costs $10, $20, $30, okay? But a quotation that stuck in my mind, he says, your business success is based on how well your marketing converts. You can have even a second type of product, a product which is not the greatest product. But as you know, you've seen wonderful products that have failed because of poor marketing. You've also seen some really awful products that have failed, that have succeeded because of great marketing, okay? Of course, the sweet spot is to have great marketing and a great product. So your business success is based on how well your marketing converts, period. If you have marketing which is bringing new customers every day, life can be grand. If not, your business, your income, and your livelihood is vulnerable and at the risk of evaporating. I don't want to scare you, but I do know that it makes a huge difference to just get it out there, do something spectacular. So even though it's now 7 minutes past, and once again, please forgive me for going over my time. There's just so much I wanted to share with you. But let's open it out for questions. Tracy and Laurie, I'm going to hand over to you first, and then we can also do the live ones. People can unmute themselves and do whatever it is. So I'm going to hand over to you. I won't have the answers, I must tell you, but maybe I can point you in the right direction from the hundreds of hours that I have studied this stuff.
I'm going to ask Laurie to unmute everyone, please, and you are welcome to put on your videos. I think in terms of what you've shared with us this morning, it's just been so incredible. And you always make us think of things that are actually obvious, but we don't see obviously. So it's been so profound for me, because the content that you shared with us this morning is so different, but it's something that we all need to focus on and we all need to do. And I love the way that you opened the session with really saying to us, you know, the business world has changed and life has essentially changed. And it's so imperative that we all, you know, keep updated, keep educated, keep informed.
Absolutely.
So is there anything, we're getting thank yous. Ariella said, thank you, Aki, as always, an incredible,
Ariella, thank you.
inspiring session. Nadine from Mad About Blinds has said, very interesting, so practical, loved it. Paul, ditto, well done, Aki, long time no see. So are there any questions for Aki other than what we're seeing in the chat box at the moment?
May I ask one, please?
Of course, Mark.
Aki, so watching it, inspiring, now I want to do something. What's the very first step? Where do I start?
Okay. Those four things about customers for me is where I spend quite a lot of energy, okay? So the first one is, you know, obviously have an avatar of that customer. Who do I want to deal with? Who do I not want to deal with? And there's those two types of customers, the people who are actually going to buy, but the people who will help me sell. So for example, in my case, speaker agents are people that I should be nurturing. In the past, my relationship with speaker agents has been very passive. I'll wait for them to get the contract for a conference, for example, and they will phone me and say, Aki, what will you charge to do a 1 hour at Sun City, okay? I haven't nurtured them. I haven't helped them. All I do is I respond to their requests. So I need to do something about them. So they're the people who help me sell what I sell. So that's the starting point. Then the second one, which I've been really finding easier as I go along, is where do they hang out? You know, the first word I used was congregate. You know, if we look at a congregation, the Jewish congregation, the congregation of a church or a temple, there are people there who have a lot in common. Now, all we have to do is to identify where are they hiding? Where are these people hiding? So the young lady, for example, who sells kosher foods, she's got to go to where Jewish people congregate. It's quite simple, okay? And what happens is that will be at the shuls, obviously, but it'll also be in other places, right? And we've got to look for the online places. Now, once that happens, then the last two steps, I'm not going to repeat them, they're in your notes, but the last two steps become relatively easy, okay? Sitting down and writing in that first step, the avatar of, I mentioned Tembi to you, who she is. She wants to have a side hustle just in case she gets retrenched. All of those details, that's the starting off point, and then everything works from there. Once we've identified where they hang out, then we've got to put together an offer that is almost irresistible to them. And that's where that value scale plays such a role for me. I've been used to giving away free value to my clients. Those who are clients who've been on this webinar will attest to that. I don't mind doing stuff for free because ultimately it's top of mind. So yeah,